So this past week, Supervisor Homan and Councilman Don Franchino tried to bring the argument, or make the argument to Clarkstown voters to vote yes on the special referendum that will be on the ballot for the November 3rd election for Clarkstown voters. This, as we know, has to do with the Palisades Center and allowing the Palisades Center to, or rather the town of Clarkstown, to lift the restrictive covenant that limits the Palisades Center Mall to 1.854 square feet of gross leasable space. And I think, what complicates the job that Supervisor Homan and Councilman Franchino have is the unanswered questions that they simply are not able to answer, with no fault of their own. It is not clear what the Palisades Center would do if the vote is a yes vote in their favor. It's not clear what they will do with the existing 250,000 square feet of space that's largely on the fourth floor, nor is it clear whether or not they would apply to to build another 250,000 square feet of space outside of the existing structure. The argument that particularly Don Franchino has been making for years and that has become more urgent is, take the shackles off the Palisades Center, let them build out that space, because what we know about the American Mall today is that it needs to be reinvented, that that retail, that you can't rely on retail, and how many other things also. I mean, restaurants, everything has been hurt and was hurting even before the pandemic. So there's kind of this vagueness as to what it is. In other words, the mall has made no overtures as to what it wants to do with this space.
Well, that's completely understandable. I mean, wouldn't you think? Because, right now they can't even open their movie theaters. How do they know if they want to expand a movie theater into that space if they don't even know if they can open a movie theater?
Well, I think that, this referendum is a long time coming. They have known that. It is the subject of litigation that is still in the court. I think the question is that as the Palisades Center recognized that Clarkstown, was moving closer to holding a referendum, and this is pre-pandemic, okay, I guess, it was up to the mall to decide whether or not to present a vision to voters so that they might be able to foresee what might happen with this space, or specifically with a greater reconfiguration. Now, maybe they are not that out front, and maybe they themselves don't really have a vision, in their minds yet. Although it could have gone either way, right? So, laying out a vision could have helped them in terms of, one of the things that you see on Facebook that's commonly asked question is, well, it's, with all the empty space that they have, why do they need more empty space? And it could seem like a valid question. The flip side is, well, if there's a recognition that they really need to, reconfigure the entire mall or portions of the mall to include some of the elements that they are as of right zoned for, then maybe, for example, they would be allowed to. Let me give you this came up during these teleconferences. They are allowed to do a hotel. They're allowed to do a conference center. They're allowed to do office. The one thing that they are not allowed to do is they're not allowed to do, without zoning change, they're not allowed to do housing. So, that's kind of interesting because...
All right, so you have an idea of what they can or can't do, so and to expect them to know exactly what they're going to do, I think in the COVID era is a bit of a stretch. Do you not agree with that?
Okay, so that was the point that I was trying to make. I think that in the COVID era, knowing exactly how to find the life raft at this point is a challenge for businesses, from the smallest business to the most colossal business. I agree with that. What I'm raising here is that this issue has been out there, long before the pandemic started. And so the vagary, causes the sort of that mentality on Facebook to kind of...
mentality on Facebook, that's a good one.
Well, it's to get all kind of frothy in the mouth and say, well, we don't know what they're planning to do. So why should we hand them this green light when we don't know what they're planning to do? I get that. I mean, I understand the chicken and the egg there. I understand what you're saying, which is, the Palisades Center either doesn't have a vision or have chosen not to share it with the public. And the public, with some lingering bitterness from amongst some people, not all, would like to have more accountability from them.
You could also look at that the other way, though. Let's say they come out and say, we want to put a water park in there. And then they decide, a year from now that's not feasible because the governor won't allow, and I'm making all this up, obviously, but let's say a year from now the governor still won't allow water parks. There's still questions about Legoland up in Orange County, whether they can open or not, even though they hope to open in July. The mall maybe was thinking to themselves, look, if we say water park, people are going to take that to mean we're promising them a water park. Maybe they can't do that.
Look, and not only that, but whatever they do try to do, still is also subject to a certain amount of, a planning board.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So, the question here is which way is this going to go? Will people understand that? And here, here's another. This is really a speculative question, okay? But is the incentive for the mall to get this covenant freed so that they're in a better position to sell themselves? Possibly. Or do they really want to do a total reconfiguration? It's just, these are the things we can't possibly know. What we do know is that the Palisades Center very much wants this referendum to pass. I mean, I think they've offered some discounts to Clarkstown voters. They're taking out all the stops in the way politicians do at election time. And the greatest argument is the level of taxes that they paid. Again, that's countered by the tax certiorari, claim that they've got also pending. So it's a murky one, but I think overall I think we will see a yes vote. I never like to I'm not a betting kind, but I think in the end of the day, especially with such a high voter turnout that's expected, if people remember to flip the ballots over, they'll see that there's a referendum question. I think in the end of the day, it probably makes sense to free them all, and also even to free Clarkstown from that pending litigation. There might be some, the mall may seek attorney's fees or what have you. I don't know how that'll go down, but mostly I would think that case would become moot if they, get if they have the freedom once and for all to get that covenant lifted. So it's it's a tough one for voters to like people like us. We sit around and think about these things all day, but but Clarkstown voters are going to go into the booth and or vote early, or vote by ballot, and by mail-in, and they're going to have to make a decision about this. And there really are a lot of factors at play.
Well, listen, we have this is in your publication now, right?
Yes, this is in rcbizjournal.com, and I want to remind people out there that hyperlocal journalism is important, and for a $50 membership for a year, you can help support what we're doing.
Okay, and we'll again, it's RCBiz, B-I-Z, journal.com, rcbizjournal.com. Tina, thank you very much.